Мы считаем, что мы не начинали военных действий на Украине, а пытаемся их закончить.
Millions of Russians every day prove they don't deserve to be called conscious beings. My own dad from Moscow does not believe me that every day Russia aims with missiles at civil buildings and civilians all over Ukraine. The last time we spoke, I sent him the results of the 13th-14th November night attack.
Давай, Сумочка, пішли. Все нормально, зайчик, просто надо бігом отсюда піти. Давай, ручку. Давай. Скажеш, папа з мамою принесуть котика.
And all he had to say was so. It's the same as with Bucha. How can one believe it? Meaning that one of the most horrifying massive murder of civilians with looting, kidnapping and torture in the Ukrainian city was a staging. The same as what's happening every day. You can only imagine my fury, not only because it is my father, but because it is the biggest evasion of reality possible today. My own father looks at genocide and chooses not to say it, as many Russians do every day. My own father calls me, his daughter, a liar, while every single day I watch missiles hit my country. I see the destroyed homes, the bodies in the streets, ruined lives of people who lost their entire families, homes, and everything they had. I see people trying to dig their clothes out of rubble, and my father, sitting safely in Moscow watching Russian state TV, tells me it's not really happening. Tells me that I am the one who's being deceived. The choice to evade this reality is a choice to be less than human and less than any rational being. The only reality we should consider in this case is that for nearly 12 years now, Russia has been waging a war of extermination against Ukraine. Not a conflict, not a special military operation, a war, genocide, the systematic attempt to erase an entire nation from existence. They deliberately target power stations, water treatments, heating systems, gas storages in winter, so people freeze in darkness in their homes. They bombed the theater in Mariupol that had children written in giant letters outside so pilots would see it. They bombed Okhmedit, the largest children's hospital in Ukraine. I had an interview that day and I remember I couldn't even speak. They rape, they loot, they torture, they murder. This is documented, verified, filmed, photographed, testified by thousands. The evidence is overwhelming and impossible to miss unless one's desperately trying to evade reality.
Пожалуйста, я прошу вас! Люди!
And yet, people in Russia, people who have internet, who can access information, who are not intellectually disabled, look at mountains of evidence and say, it's fake. You're bombing yourself. Not, we haven't seen the evidence, but we don't believe it. You bomb yourself.
Вчера 28 гражданских лиц в Киеве были убиты. Наши журналисты видели, как российская ракета уничтожила целый городской квартал.
Если бы ваши журналисты видели бы, как были уничтожены нашими ракетами целые жилые кварталы, они вряд ли могли бы вам об этом что-то сказать. Они не остались бы в живых. Если они что-то и видели, то видели со стороны, и удар был не по жилым кварталам, а по объектам оборонно-промышленного комплекса, по заводам, которые производят военную технику.
They literally see bombed hospitals and say that's Ukrainian provocation. They see genocide committed by governments with a documented history of genocide, and they actively, consciously choosing not to believe their own eyes. This is evasion at its most unforgivable. People who say it's complicated, like genocide requires a graduate seminar to comprehend. Who say we don't really know what's happening, when there are 10,000 videos, photos and testimonies. Who say there are two sides to every story, like there is a valid other side to murdering people living their casual lives. All of them are accomplices of Russian crimes. Yes, with their hands being clean, but their brains being drowning in mud. And here's what everyone must burn into their brain. There is no middle ground between accepting genocide and opposing it. And if one can take a side on that, if mass murder doesn't make one choose, then they have already chosen to be less than human. They have chosen evil not even blindly, but with their eyes widely open, believing the government with a documented history of genocide. Complete abdication of everything that makes us human, the choice to think, to judge, to face reality. This is choosing to be less than anything, deserving the name of conscious being. People ask me why I'm so angry, why I can't calm down, why I can't just let people have their opinions. Because this isn't an opinion, this isn't a disagreement about philosophy or which movie is better. This is about massive murder with no rational reason in front of the whole world. And the monstrous part of people decided that that's debatable. The only facts are that the country with a documented history of genocide invaded another unprovoked and is systematically destroying it. Show me where the nuance is. To everyone who says we should understand Russia's perspective. Their perspective is that Ukrainians don't deserve to exist, that Ukraine shouldn't exist, that our language, culture, identity should be erased. Is this worth considering? What's the difference between this perspective and the one of a serial killer? To everyone who says, but NATO expansion provoked, will you try to justify serial killer because some of his irrational whims were unfulfilled? Nothing justifies bombing children. Nothing justifies genocide. I don't care about one's geopolitical analysis. I don't care about throwing names at me. There is no context that makes such mass murder acceptable. Ukraine is being brutally destroyed, whether one believes it or not. People are dying under routine missiles, whether one chooses to see it or not. Children are being murdered in their beds, whether you admit it or not. There is no gray area in genocide, and there is no neutrality between aiming residential buildings with missiles. When Russia deliberately targets civilians, houses full of sleeping families, train stations and shopping centers crowded with people, when they erase entire towns, that's not morally complex. That's not geopolitically nuanced. That's not a difficult situation to judge. That's evil, absolute, undeniable, screaming at your face evil, which does not become less evil because someone wants a pathetic comfort of, we don't really know the details. And if one can't figure out which side they are on when people are being systematically murdered, those people have already chosen. And that choice makes one an enemy of everything human, everything decent, and everything worth preserving in this world.